Today we are going to study about Alauddin Khilji and his political history and his administration. Alauddin Khilji. He was a nephew and son-in-law of Jalaluddin and came to the throne by murdering his aged uncle. Alauddin Khilji won over the nobles by bribing them with rich gifts. Jalaluddin's sons and grandsons were either blinded or killed, and all obstacles to the throne were removed. Alauddin declared himself the Sultan and ascended the throne of Delhi. It is said that he took back all the gifts he had given to the nobles who had betrayed Jalaluddin and had all except three blinded and killed. Alauddin Khilji was a brilliant general and good administrator. He dreamt of conquering the whole world. He was the first Sultan to build an empire in India. During his rule, the boundaries of Delhi Sultanate extended beyond the Vindhyas up to the Deccan, and the Sultanate reached the new height of the power and glory. The conquest of Alauddin Khilji. On ascending the throne, Alauddin had to face a rebellion of Mongols, who had earlier settled near Delhi. When Alauddin heard of the rebellion, he got many of the Mongols massacred. The first one, the place was captured by him, Gujarat. Alauddin sent an expedition to Gujarat, which was conquered and annexed. The Malik of a slave was brought 1,000 dinars. He eventually rose to the position of general in the Alauddin army. The second place was captured in northern part of India is Rajasthan. The Alauddin first captured the port of Ranthambore and then he attacked the Chittoor, the capital of Mewar. The Rajputs fought bravely but lost the battle. The women performed the jaugar and burned themselves to death. This was followed by the capture of most important cities of Rajasthan, Mantu, Ujjain, Dar and Chanderi in Malwa. And by 1305, Alauddin became the master of all part of northern India. The conquest of Malwa had further opened the door to the south. Deccan Expedition. Alauddin was the first Turkish ruler to send the expedition to the Deccan. The rugged terrain and the distance from Delhi has discouraged the rulers of North India from going beyond the Vindhyas earlier. The Deccan expedition were led by Malik Kafur, who defeated the rulers of Devagiri, Warangal, Dwarasamutra. He also attacked and plundered the Madurai in the far south. So we can say Alauddin became the first Turkish ruler to extend his influence south of Vindhyas. The successful Deccan campaign brought the enormous wealth and enhanced the power and prestige of Alauddin Khilji. The kingdoms of Devagiri, Warangal, Dwarasamutra, Madurai were conquered but not annexed by him. Alauddin did not annex these kingdoms for two reasons. First one, he realized that it would be practically difficult to control these distant lands from Delhi. Second one, he was more interested in acquiring the wealth of these Deccan kingdoms for the maintenance of his huge army. Thus the rulers of Deccan were forced to accept the lordship of Alauddin Khilji and they were forced to pay the annual tribute to him. Under the administration of Alauddin Khilji, market regulation is an important one. Market regulation. Alauddin is best known in history for his market regulation. He fixed the cost of all commodities such as food grains, sugar, and cooking oil. For this purpose, he set up three markets at Delhi. One market for food grains, the second for the costly cloth, and third one for the horses, slaves and cattle. Each market was put under the charge of controller of market. He was known by the name Shahana. The very strict punishments were prescribed for cheating and underweighing goods. The measures against the nobles. Alauddin had to face the series of rebellions by his nobles and its relations. He adopted several measures to bring them under his control. The first one, the nobles were not allowed to intermarry without his permission. No parties could be organized by the nobles without the prior consent or approval of the Sultan. Thus, the nobles were denied the opportunity of interacting with each other and conspiring against him. Him means the king. And second one, an elaborate and efficient spy system was set up. The nobles could not move about freely throughout India. Everything they did in public places as well as in their home was promptly reported to the Sultan. The third one, all feudal land grants were confiscated. The fresh grants were made, but the new handholders were no longer the owners of the land. They were only entitled to a part of revenue which was fixed by the Sultan. They could not levy the additional tax to the peasants. Military reforms. Alauddin was the first Sultan of Delhi to lay the foundation of permanent standing army. The size of the standing army was enlarged. He introduced a system of branding the horses and maintaining the descriptive role of the soldiers. It also known by this name Dag and Chegra. The spices were kept in every unit of the army. The nobles were not allowed to maintain the armies. The salaries of the soldiers were reduced and it was fixed by the Sultan. Revenue reforms. To meet the cost of maintaining the huge army, the Sultan needed a large amount of money. Thus, Alauddin introduced certain revenue reforms in Sultanate. The land was measured and the share of the state was fixed by the Sultan. The special revenue officials were appointed to collect the taxes. The Sultan increased the tax from 1/3 to half of the harvest. It was to be paid in hash. Today we have learned about Alauddin Khilji, the political history and his administration. So next class I'll come with another topic.